Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is part 3 of What If Naruto Was the Red X. If you guys enjoy this what if and want to see part 4 of it, comment down below and let me know. And go ahead and check out other what ifs in the channel. Before we start, please do support for more awesome content. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like, and also share this video with your friends. So let's start this video. Jump City, California. A silent figure jumps from roof to roof, heading towards the docks at the south end of town. The figure soon jumps off of the closest roof and lands before a single warehouse with a large owl on the front, and mentally rolls his eyes. Holding out a single hand, a red X-shaped object flies forward and attaches to the front of door. The X begins to spark before vanishing, and the tumblers on the door slowly line into place. Quickly lunging forward, the figure places his hands into the crack between the doors and pulls them open, only to quickly rush in when he saw someone coming towards him. Looks like the silent alarm went off. It's simple, there's good and there's evil. There are those who commit crimes, and those who stop them. The Teen Titans had just arrived to investigating a silent alarm at the Lex Corporation warehouse at the docks of Jump City. They got there just in time to see a black-clad figure slip in through a partially open door. The group quickly exited the T-car in order to give chase. Entering the building, the cyborg on the team activates his flashlight so they could see, only to view a black object turn down a corner, the night watchman left unconscious at his desk. There are those who commit crimes and those who stop them. As they chased the strangely familiar figure, they noticed he made not a single sound. Even the Green Titan in dog form could hear neither a footstep nor a breath. They do hear a strange noise as they get closer to the elevator, however. Once they arrive at the elevator, they see an open grate on the ground and look just in time to see the figure fly up the shaft of the elevator by holding onto a grappling line. The two sides are opposite, as different as night and day. The Teen Titans quickly fly up the shaft, one being carried by a teammate, another using a grapple of his own, the next floating up quickly, the last forming into a bird to rise up as well. The thief has made it far, however, and crouches down to place one last mirror down, deflecting a net of them back into the wall. The thief quickly rushes past the lasers, and he smirks hearing the Titans following him, yet continues forward, and turns down another damn hole. The line between them is perfectly clear. Or at least, it's supposed to be. Exiting the last hall, the figure tosses another static X at a control panel beside a door, and it opens, allowing him to run into a large room with numerous boxes. However, the figure stops when he hears a shocked gasp from behind him, and turns around to view the now shocked Teen Titans. Now what was revealed to them was someone they had thought they would never see again. He wore a black skin-tight suit with a black ragged cape flaring behind him, a jagged red X over his chest. Over his hands he wears a pair of grey gloves with a red X on each palm. Around his waist is an ash grey belt with the compartments on the sides completely smoothed down. Steel soles on the bottoms of his black boots, while covering his face is a full face mask that also covers his entire head. A white gothic metal skull that had no lower jaw covers the front of his mask, while over the right eye a jagged red X came over it, while the rest of his mask is black. Red X? I thought Robin was Red X. The green-skinned shapeshifter known as Beast Boy to friend and foe alike says out loud, only for the one in front of them to aim the palms of his gloves towards them before speaking. Think again. He says, firing X shurikens from his gloves. Titans, go. Robin shouts as the X hit the ground and stick to the ground like shuriken, causing everyone but Raven to scatter. The Dark Titan floats forward a bit before erecting a shield around her to stop the exploding devices from hitting her. As the shield lowers, she looks to her right only to see X charging right at her. She brings up another black shield in front of her, only for him to jump up and teleport behind her, and knocks her to the ground with a sweeping kick. Once she is on the ground, he pulls out another X shuriken and unfolds it, only for it to be blown out of his hand by Starfire, as she starts to throw her star bolts at him. He jumps to avoid the bolts and ends up against a wall, sticking there with chakra for a single second. He then jumps off and uses her back as a stepping stone on his way to the steel girders that are only a few feet from the ceiling, with her now hot on his trail. The girl then begins firing at him rapidly, only to miss as he jumps from one girder to another. Suddenly, he turns in mid-air to fire red beams of energy from his hands that hit the side of two vertical girders. While she is flying in between the two, only for them to ricochet in an X pattern, hitting her and shocking her to the ground as he lands in the junction between a vertical and horizontal girder. Just as he catches his breath, a green pterodactyl that he assumes is Beast Boy flies up behind him and charges at him before turning into an equally green orangutan that roars at the thief, only to get a red X shoved into his open jaws, forcing them to stay open. Struggling for a few seconds with the XBB, soon solves the problem as he turns into a hippo and the X folds out of his mouth. Only for the shapeshifter to look down and realize that he turned into an incredibly heavy animal on top of a very thin piece of metal. He looks down wide-eyed just as the girder he is on splits underneath his weight. Red X, having jumped off of the girder after placing the trap in Beast Boy's mouth, lands on the ground with a smirk underneath his mask as he watches the green hippo fall into a pile of boxes behind him. Hearing heavy footstep in front of him, he looks up to see Cyborg running at him. He holds out his left hand and launches another X at the metal teen, wanting to use a static X. However, this one stops right in front of the cybernetic teen and expands. The ends reach out to stick to 4 boxes before pulling back like elastic, crashing the boxes into him. X manages to blink in surprise seeing this, and then inwardly wonders what the hell he did wrong before smirking. One left. He thinks to himself and corrects himself as he sees Starfire, Beast Boy, Raven and Cyborg all get out of the predicaments that he put them in and surround him to attack. Someone sure has a chip on their shoulder. The thief thinks as Cyborg literally pushes a chip of wood off his shoulder, making the thief chuckle in his throat. He then quickly crouches down as they start to close in, and the thief points to the X on his chest as he tells them all, "Come on, kids." X marks the spot. Just before jumping up to avoid a blast from Cyborg's sonic blaster, landing on a crate that Raven was preparing to throw at him and jumped up again, avoiding another few star bolts from Starfire. Only to land with his back to Beast Boy in a different gorilla form. He hits the teleporter built into the belt just as he is about to get crushed by a pair of large hairy fists. Puzzled at his sudden disappearance, Beast Boy shrugs his huge shoulders at Starfire and Raven who are floating behind him. Red X reappears behind them all on a large pile of crates, only to be tackled by the traffic light, otherwise known as Robin. They tumble together for a minute before rolling onto their feet, from where Robin throws a bird airing at X, only for the thief to teleport out of the way of the odd-shaped shuriken. The bird airing quickly returns to Robin, while X suddenly appears behind him, and attempts a right hook only for the younger boy to dodge and drop to the floor. Robin then quickly brings his legs up to kick, only for X to stop the kick with one hand, then fling himself back off of the steel-plated boots and behind the boy. Robin then snarls before quickly running towards X, with a punch aimed at the taller teen's head. X dodges the attack with lightning-fast reflexes before then catching the next punch and flips into the air. Bringing a foot down onto the Titan, X is surprised by his strength when Robin manages to catch the attack. The black-clothed thief is then thrown across the room and lands against the wall, groaning slightly in pain. Before he can even think to get up, however, Robin has descended on him, and holds his head down with one arm, while X glares at him through his masked eyes. "Who are you?" Robin demands of the criminal before him, narrowing his eyes in suspicion. "If I wanted you to know that, would I be wearing a mask?" X says before grabbing Robin's arm, and using a shocker built into the glove's palms. Robin shouts in pain as electricity courses through his body before then punching him hard enough to knock him back a few good feet into some boxes. Raven and Cyborg dash out from behind, set boxes and charge at him only for the cunning thief to launch another X at them, as Raven begins to chant at the same time that Cyborg readies his sonic cannon to fire. Before either can attack, however, X sends another static X forward towards the two. The weapon sends out an electrical charge, which is sent through both Titans, causing them to hit one another with their attacks instead of the thief. "Looks like you got your wires crossed," he says jokingly before jumping back to avoid a bolt from Starfire, and then jumping to avoid the starbolt. He can't help but idly wonder if all she could do was fling those stupid balls of energy. That is before he put his hands together and launched a large X that hits the girl, sending her flying to a wall where it captures her. He then teleports over to her and puts his fingers on her chin to lift her face up before saying, "You know, cutie, the only crime here is that you and I haven't gone out on a..." Before he can finish, however, she hits him with more powerful bolts from her eyes. Alright, she does have something better than lame-ass starbolts. He thinks to himself as he ends up landing against a few boxes, only to see Beast Boy coming at him while changing into a large bear. "I don't have time for this shit," the thief thinks to himself as he narrows his eyes on the charging bear. Responding quickly, the thief flips up and slams his open palm on the ground, creating a large X-shaped hole in the floor, which the green bear falls into with very wide eyes. "Watch your step," the thief says humorously as he jumps over the hole. Walking over to the still-downed Robin, he pushes the boy Blunder out of the way with his foot, and picks up something that looks a lot like a gun. "So this is the Xenothium scanner, finally found it at least," he says to himself as he picks it up. As he jumps over Robin, the boy Wonder manages to get up and starts to chase him again. "I won't let you get away with..." Robin starts before being tripped by a stretchy X that wraps around his ankles, tripping him and making him hit his chin on the ground. X smirks to himself as he then turns around and looks at Robin while smirking under his mask. "Better luck next time, kid," he says as he spins the gun-like scanner around his finger, before attaching it to his belt, and then gives the boy Blunder a mock salute. "And thanks for the suit." He pushes on the middle of the gray belt buckle, preparing to teleport, when it starts to work and then just stops. Looking down, X blinks behind his mask, then begins to press the button over and over again. Come on," he says urgently while pressing the button again as Robin starts to get up and breaks the bonds on his legs at long last. "Great, it's running low on juice," he mutters lowly before turning around and running away from the pursuing Robin. Jumping up through an open roof window, he keeps running, and the boy in traffic light tights remains in hot pursuit. This time, X begins punching the belt buckle and jumps, dodging another tackle attempt from Robin. He turns around in midair and gives yet another mock salute before speaking to the way too serious teen yet again. Catch you later. With that, the thief shimmers out of existence, leaving a glaring Robin in his wake. When the blonde thief reappears, however, his is on the roof of a building a few mere blocks away, well out of sight of the Titans yet close enough that he didn't waste any of his remaining power. Damn, now that's what I call fun. The thief says with a little chuckle and grins to himself as he reaches up and removes the skull mask to reveal the bright blue eyes, whiskered cheek, and spiked blonde hair of one Uzumaki Naruto. Now, if I could just figure out how this thing works. He then sighs to himself as he unhooks the sensor from his belt and glares at the gun-shaped device. Titan's Tower, Jump City, California. Robin looks out from the rooftop of Titan's Tower and out to the city, a frown marring his face as he thinks back to the recent conflict with their new foe, or rather, his old mistake. I'm supposed to be one of the good guys. To always do the right thing. Robin calmly breathes in the cool night air, and then looks up to the hanging moon in the sky. Eyes narrowing, Robin briefly sees a flash of red in his sight, but it's simply a trick of his mind as that red forms an X over the moon. The line is supposed to be clear, but for me, back then, it wasn't. A madman was threatening the city, and I had to stop him. Robin closes his eyes, seeing the face of their old enemy Slade, as his soldiers all stand before him and at the ready. Robin's fists tighten, his muscles tense, but he somehow manages to calm himself. Even the mere thoughts of the madman brought a foul taste to the boy wonder's mouth, and made him strain like a tightly coiled spring ready to snap under pressure. Shaking his head and smoothing back his spiky hair, Robin quickly turns, his cape swishing behind him as he enters Titan's Tower, heading for his room. So I became Red X, a ruthless thief who could get closer to the madman than Robin ever could. The boy wanders through the halls, soon coming to the darkened hallway that led to his room. Raven lived on the other side of the tower. Starfire was a hall down from her. Robin had the tower built like this, so the guys wouldn't bother them. He was in the middle, away from yet close to all his friends in case any emergency was to occur, and he was needed. The Caped Crusader soon reaches his room, and presses in the code for his room, the door sliding to one side to reveal the dark room beyond, newspaper clippings on the wall of various villains. Robin slowly closes, then opens his eyes. Now before him is a shadowed form. It's himself, donning the X-suit for the first time, developing the weapons, and finalizing the technology employed into the suit's other features. But I didn't tell my teammates, and my plan didn't work. I almost lost my life and my friends. Robin grimaces. He sees himself fighting the Titans, beating them one by one, not a wasted movement, not a wasted effort, and he beat all of them easily. But that was why he was the leader. Even without powers, he was still able to beat the Teen Titans. Robin shook his head at those thoughts. They were what Slade would want him to think after all. Walking forward, Robin picked up the object that alerted Starfire to his plan nearly a year earlier. He soon dropped the object to the ground and crushed it under his boot. It was a mistake he was not going to repeat, and it was one he thought he had already cleaned up. It was the closest I've ever come to crossing the line. And I thought it was in the past, but now. Robin walked out of his room and back down the halls and corridors of Titan's Tower with practiced ease. He knew every room, every hall, and every entrance or exit in the building. No one knew more about this building, not even Cyborg, who helped build it, only knew what Robin let him know. Stopping suddenly, Robin grimaced. He was thinking like Slade again. Starfire was right about one thing. It seemed he and Slade were unfortunately very similar. Shaking his head, Robin quickly made his way down into the tower's depths. Soon reaching his destination, Robin punched in the code for the door. Entering, he looked around the evidence room, admiring the numerous trinkets and objects that he and the Titans had collected over the years. Quickly moving that to the back of his mind, Robin walked over to another door and pressed in the code. Narrowing his eyes, he watched as it swung open and walked in also. He frowned, seeing the door to the X-suit's resting place open. The suit gone. His mistake was truly back to haunt him. Someone else has crossed that line, and it's my job to stop him. But who is he? Cyborg demands as he and the Titans, minus Robin, all look at numerous screenshots of the renegade thief known as Red X. I mean, if Robin's the ex-Red X, who's the new guy? Cyborg reiterates, but is then knocked to the side, as Beast Boy pushes a dry erase board up in front of the massive screen. On the board are numerous pictures of alternate Robins, either known or unknown. Some Beast Boy has even made up from the looks of things. Okay. If he's not Robin's evil twin, then he's obviously a bionic monkey infused with Robin's DNA. Beast Boy says and gets a look that suddenly makes him feel like a moron from the two female Titans. In fact, they look to one another soon after, as if silently saying, he's an idiot to one another. And as soon as Cyborg manages to see Theory, he has the same reaction as the girls and stares at BB. Raven then raises a hand and makes the board start spinning, knocking BB into the air, and then landing into the kitchen as several items of food go flying, as well as a larvae-like creature, while Starfire clasps her hands over her mouth. Face it, Red X could be anyone. Anyone smart enough to find the suit and dumb enough to take it for a joyride. Raven says in her usual monotone, X sneezing somewhere in the city, while trying to figure out how to work the scanner, as Beast Boy manages to put his head up woozily and look around. And when Robin returns, he will help us to discover who. Starfire says confidently just as the boy wonder walks into the room and over to the screen Cyborg had the numerous X shots posted on. It doesn't matter. I created Red X every system, every weapon. Narrowing his eyes on the skull mask thief Robin finishes. Whoever's inside that suit, he's my responsibility. Robin says simply, while clenching his fists on the control panel of the screen. Well, if we're gonna catch him, we at least need to figure out what he's after. Cyborg mentions and Robin twitches. He looks down at the keys for the screen with narrowed eyes before sighing lightly. I already know. The boy wonder types on the keys as he informs the Titans this, soon bringing up a picture of an X-shaped molecule. Xenothium. The fuel that powers the suit. He tells the group, collecting gasps from those around save Beast Boy. "Aw, man, I never understand anything." The green bean exclaims while stomping away from the too smart for their own good Titans, and sits down to merely listen to what is being said. Xenothium. You powered that suit with Xenothium. Are you crazy, man? That shit is dangerous and unstable. Tell me you were not stupid enough to go messing with it. Cyborg exclaims while waving his arms around and yelling at Robin, the boy wonder looking slightly comical as he hunches down with a scowl on his face, Cyborg's voice loud enough to push his spiky hair back. Robin grits his teeth under Cyborg's tirade, his cape wrapped tightly around himself. Like I said, it was a mistake. Robin snaps while clicking a few more buttons on the screen's control panel, bringing up a few shots of the gun-like scanner X-Stole earlier. The scanner Red X-Stole will locate any Xenothium within a 10-mile radius. Robin explains and Raven frowns, that only works if X actually knows how to work the device, and that was slightly unlikely. So we must locate it first. Starfire says cutting Raven from her thoughts and Cyborg pulls a cord from his chest panel, and plugs it into the console. X isn't the only one with a scanner. I'm downloading the molecular signature and transmitting to your communicators. He tells them while typing on the control panel of the console and downloading the information. Thanks. Robin says, yet walks past the other Titans, and towards the door. But I won't need it. He says cryptically, while walking past the double doors of the room, making Cyborg blink and look towards him with a confused expression. How are you gonna find the Xenothium without a scanner? Cyborg questions of his leader, while still confused, and the spiky-haired boy merely scowls as the doors slowly close behind him. The same way I found it the first time. Rooftops, Jump City. X had long given up on trying to work that damn scanner. Instead he decided he'd find Robin, and let the kid lead him to some Xenothium. Unfortunately, the kid had gone to a freak named Dr. Chang or something. The guy was obvious bad news, yet the kid had mentioned someone would be stealing some Xenothium. Really, how stupid was Robin, to tell a criminal something like that? X was currently watching as Robin stared at a building across from their location. He was currently using the invisibility function of his suit, in order to stay out of the birdbrain sight. Then a green bird flew towards the building, changing into Beast Boy as he nears the ground and tosses a green feather over his shoulder. So, you're pretty much kicking yourself for not getting rid of that Red X suit when you had the chance, huh? The green jester says, making silently slap his forehead. Even he had more tact than to say something so stupid to the kid, damn it. Robin's reaction to the question is his body tensing in silence, which makes the green bean uneasy. Forget I said anything. He says while rubbing the back of his head and Robin's shoulders relax slightly. I couldn't destroy it. The Xenothium power core is too dangerous to dispose of. Robin tells the green teen why Lex himself rolls his eyes, wondering why the kid is so damn serious all the time, and why BB is so goofy. It was supposed to stay locked away. Robin adds and X inwardly chuckles to himself. Too bad you didn't do a better job of hiding or locking it, chuckles, it's mine now. The thief thinks as Raven emerges from the shadows nearby. No sign of Red X, she says while Starfire touches down with a worried look on her face. Nor Cyborg, she says, and X raises a brow. What the hell happened to Cyborg now? As he is wondering about this, Robin pulls out his communicator and opens it, quickly pushing the button to call Cyborg. Cyborg, report. He demands while speaking into the device, his hands clenching tighter as his worry grows. Cyborg, he exclaims, then takes a breath and lowers the device to his side. X must have attacked him. If Cyborg's hurt, it's my fault. The kid says while stalking past the cutie, and X twitches. Why the fucking hell would he attack the tin head? He's just trying to steal some damn Xenothium, not destroy them. Robin, Starfire says softly to her friend, while Lex continues to inwardly see that Robin's words about him attacking Cyborg. Had he looked, he might have noticed Raven was looking in his direction with a raised brow. I'm responsible, Starfire, for everything that's happened. The kid suddenly said, breaking both X and Raven from their musings to turn towards him and wonder what just happened, as neither had been paying much attention. No, Robin. The error you made, it is in the past. You are no longer the one inside that suit. The red-haired girl says, while walking over to Robin, and X grins. After all, that sounds like his cue, if he's ever heard one. And personally, X says while turning his cloaking device off, Raven frowning as she sees just who she was sensing only a short while ago. I think it looks much cooler on me. X boasts while forming several X-shaped shuriken into his hand and throwing them towards the Titans. Move. Robin orders and X smirks behind his mask. It looked like it was time to play with the kids again. Leaping from the roof, X lands and turns to see Raven and Beast Boy heading straight for him. X smirks seeing BB become a rhino, and it reminded of how this kid is not really the sharpest kunai in the pack. X smirks as he whips out an X, sending it flying towards both as it wraps around Beast Boy, knocking him back into Raven, and allowing it to wrap around and trap her as well, sending both towards Starfire, and ending 3 problems in one fell swing. X then hears a loud roar, and grins as the kid comes rushing towards him, creating an X on his palm to block an attack from the kid, and send him skidding to the side. Robin rushes towards him once more, making X wonder why he was trying something that didn't work last time. Forming another shield X, X knocks Robin to the ground with a smirk and watches as he's getting up. This'll be too good to pass up, man. He then thinks to himself as he reaches forward and grasps Robin's mask, trying to pull it off only to raise a brow as it stretches. What the fuck? The thief wonders, before releasing the seemingly elastic mask to snap back onto Robin's face, eliciting a painful snap as Robin lets out a pained yelp then grasps his face. X takes advantage of the momentary distraction to jump from the side of the building and towards the company building below, smirking as he then uses his teleportation device to land on the glass roof safely, then rush towards an open door. Heading inside, X rushes down the many halls before stopping and narrowing his eyes. I don't know where the fuck I'm going. He mutters bitterly before sighing, and then has an idea. Duh, the security room has to have cameras. He exclaims and heads rushing in that direction. Later, X had found the security room. He had also figured out how to get to the Zenodium ore held several floors below his current location. Just have to get past a few traps, a few blocks and I'll be set. X says to himself, while walking down a hall, wondering why no one was on guard duty. The kid probably called them and told them that he and the other kids would handle guard duty or something stupid like that. X thought with a frown as he then walked and saw Robin at the door he needed. Inwardly cursing, X turned on his cloaking device to sneak past Robin. Seeing the look on the kid's face, X smirks. I bet he's wondering what he'd do if he were me. The thief thinks to himself, then hears a shrill scream just as he reaches the door. Hey, wasn't it the cutie? He wonders to himself as Robin quickly turns around. Starfire. He wonders then rushes off, X cloak turning off to show the thief was now standing right in front of the damn door. As Robin is rushing off, X gets an idea in his head that makes him grin beneath his mask. What's the matter, kid? He calls out, causing Robin to stop and turn to look at him with surprise on his face. Don't you want to play? After all, they're your toys. X says while several X appear in his hands once more before the thief then tosses them towards Robin, the young titan ducking out of the way as the X hit a control panel that had been behind Robin and explode. The door behind X then unlocks, making the thief smirk as he flips backwards into an array of laser beams. Robin following the thief as they jump and flip through the numerous lasers, without missing a beat. The two soon come out of the hall and into a large downward shaft. X grins as he and Robin fall down the shaft, only the thief increases his rate of acceleration and lets another X fly. The object hurls downward, hitting a shimmering force field that lies below, and making an X-shaped opening which X falls through while it closes behind him, making Robin smash face first into the field. X looks at this and can't help snicker before rushing off, leaving the overly serious Sasuke look-alike to try and get past the force field. Rushing down a long hall, X suddenly stops at a room with numerous black tiles on the floor, making the thief frown. Okay, either this is a trap, or the decorator got tired of all the boring white tiles. X thought to himself with a small chuckle, then decided to wait for Robin, switching on his cloaking device and hiding behind the door of the room. He didn't have to wait long, and as soon as Robin entered the lights flashed on. X shook his head at this, and then moved behind Robin. After you. X says humorously, while pushing Robin onto the tiles, which then form a large red X under him. Robin looks up and his eyes go white as he then noticed a large cannon-like device heading towards him from the ceiling. Ducking out of the way as the beam fires, Robin finds another red X appearing below him, and quickly runs off of it, heading towards the door on the other side of the room. X smirked behind his mask at this and simply jumped over the tiles, soon landing on the other side, and walking past the door. Thanks for the hand, kid. X says simply as he closes the door, his last sight of the boy wonder being his wide disbelieving eyes as he was trapped with the cannon. Ignoring that, X pushed the door completely closed then locked it. The thief looks around and slightly frowns. The vault is circular with a platform in the middle that has a tube of Xenothium floating over it, while a light is shining down. Resting before the platform is a control panel with a screen, which X walks over to. Xenothium ore. He says to himself and enters a command into the control console. Grips rise from the floor and reach up, grasping the vial of Xenodium, and bring it down before handing it to X enough to power the suit for a good long time. He says while looking at the object, then walks over to one of the circular hatches around the room and opens it. Pulling out a yellow containment device, X places it on the floor, then kneels down to open it up. I love it when the good guy wins. The thief says about to put the tube into the device, then gets a start when a loud rumbling comes from the area outside. X quickly places the tube into his belt and turns to the door in time to watch, as a familiar laser begins to burn through the wall around the circular door, then finishes to allow the door to drop, revealing Robin, who has the cannon from before in his arms, still glowing from where he has used it. "You're not going to win." Robin snarls before dropping the cannon and lunging forward at the surprised Red X, with both a roar and flying roundhouse kick. The attack sends the thief and his container flying, both hitting the full wall. Slowly getting back to his feet, X can't help but nearly laugh at Robin. Something about this kid is just so amusing. "Kid, you are taking life way too seriously." X tells Robin with a grin on his face before charging forward, the kid doing likewise. Robin jumps with another kick directed towards the thief, only for him to flip under him then away from him. Robin grabs several small explosive pellets from his belt and tosses them towards X. The thief manages to evade just in time as they explode. The thief lands while seamlessly pushing himself into a flip and tossing several X shuriken towards Robin, who dodges just in time for some shuriken to miss his head, while using his extendable staff to block the rest. The two stare down at one another for a few moments, X smirking as he holds up a hand. The X on the back of his glove suddenly grows to become an X-shaped blade. X then lunges at Robin, as he lets the same happen to his other glove, an X-blade forming out of the back, then slashes down towards Robin. The Titan moves out of the way quickly then dodges a second slash before quickly trying to sweep the thief's feet from under him. Dodging a jab from the sharp punches, Robin catches X blades on his staff then shoves X back a ways. X has to quickly duck as Robin comes at him with a flying swing of his staff. As the staff flies over his head, X lunges at Robin, swinging his X blades towards the younger teen. The two continue in a dance as X blades and Robin's staff both arch and swing, until Robin finally manages to hit X, knocking the thief to the side. "Okay, no more Mr. Nice Guy." X thinks with a frown and gets up. Activating his X blades, they quickly begin spinning like rotary saws. Lunging forward, X swings his arm at Robin's head, the teen only just managing to get down as the thief's weapon sparks along the metal of the walls. Robin quickly dodges as X swings the saw-like weapon at his head, then down towards him again. Robin managing to evade then brandishes his staff, which extends and nearly hits X in the head. However, the thief dodges then knocks the weapon to the side and lunges at Robin, with a few quickly swings of his arms, only to be kicked back with a grunt of pain. The two then come forward once more, Robin and X weapons locking together as X glares at the teen and Robin does likewise. "Why did you steal the suit? What are you planning to do?" Robin demands with a slight strain to his voice, and X smirks once more as he answers, "Whatever I want." With that, X quickly flips both himself and Robin backwards, quickly tossing the Titan away from himself. "Not everybody likes to play the big villain, kid. I'm a thief," X states simply as the blades on his gloves retract. "I'm not threatening your precious city, just looking out for number one," X informs simply, and Robin narrows his masked eyes, brandishing his staff. "So you're not psychotic. You're just selfish," Robin retorts, and X can't help a slight laugh that escapes his throat. "Lighten up," chuckles, he says humorously and raises both of his palms towards the other teen. "I'm not such a bad guy, once you get to know me." With that, X quickly fires a pair of X towards Robin, the kid managing to deflect one with his staff, only to be knocked off his feet by the other. X quickly lunges at Robin, jumping up and grinding his foot down in a stomp, just as Robin rolls out of the way. Robin then kicks X in the back, knocking him into a wall with a grunt, only to fall to the floor and see the container with the Xenothium across from him. "Playtime's over, kid," X says while quickly grabbing the container, Robin pulling out a bird earring. "Back off or I trip the power core," X says darkly, his finger a mere few inches from the buckle of his belt, the front of it opening to glow an ominous red. "And the core triggers the rocks," X says, and Robin frowns while slowly lowers the bird earring. "I don't think you want that on your conscience," X tries, and Robin narrows his eyes, quickly raising the bird earring once more. "And I don't think you want to be disintegrated," Robin says simply, and X inwardly growls. Now the kid doesn't think he's crazy. Really, what god did he piss off out there for this? However, as he thinks this, he notices a confused look cross Robin's features, and turns his head to the door behind him, only to see men in strange suits like that Shanghai wore, one raising a weapon which glows red, and fires at him, hitting him in the chest as electricity courses through his body. X lands with a grunt, only half conscious as he hears the kid, and figures he's been hit too. Looking on as the moon men continue to enter the vault, he groans softly and blacks out with only one thought in his head. Why did the kid just have to mention someone breaking into this place to a known villain? Later. Ugh. X grunted as he slowly got up, rubbing his head and groaning once more, while rubbing his head some more. "Alright, who were the moon men?" he questioned, and then heard something hum. Quickly looking up, X saw a circle of light. Looking down, he saw another circle. "Huh?" he questioned intelligently before then watching his familiar red beams rise from the floor to form bars around him. "Criminals," comes Robin's voice, and X turns to see the kid standing in front of the main control panel. "Just like you." he says while walking to stand in front of the thief, who chuckles lightly and grasps the bars of the cell. Come on, kid. You don't really think this little playpen can hold me? X says while gripping the bars of the cell, only for Robin to press a nearby switch and shock the thief. You don't even care, do you? A low-life maniac just got his hands on enough xenothium to disintegrate the entire city, and it's your fault. Robin tells X with a snarl, the blonde quirks an eyebrow beneath his mask at the younger teen's words. Oh, you mean our fault? He quips with a smirk on under his mask. After all, Robin was the one who mentioned to a highly dangerous criminal that someone would be breaking into this place, not him, while Robin himself simply narrowed his masked eyes onto the taller teen. At least I'm going to do something about it. And if you cared about anything other than yourself, you'd be helping. Robin nearly shouted at the thief, who suppressed a growl at his words. Where the hell did this fucking kid get off telling him how to live his damn life? Sorry, kid. Some guys don't like to play the hero. X said with gritted teeth, though his vocal synthesizer masked the anger in his voice perfectly. Robin frowned at the thief and pointed towards him with a single finger. I'll be back to take you to jail. Robin says, then turns his back on X and walks away. Disgust is clear in his tone, which angers X even further. The blonde-haired thief then narrows his eyes on the computer terminal, wondering how to get out for a few mere moments before acting. Sorry kid, I wouldn't be here for that appointment. X mutters while then holding his hands outside of the bars without touching them and forming a familiar T-shaped hand seal. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, he exclaims, and in a plume of smoke a second red X now stands outside of the bars. The new X looks around the room, before walking over to the console and pressing a few of the buttons. The bars around the original X dim and fade before then vanishing completely. Nice one. X says to his clone, which then walks over to him and promptly slams his fist into X's jaw. The thief is sent flying back only to slowly get back up with a groan. What the hell was that for? X demands of the clone, which crosses its arms over his chest and glares down at the original. You're not Naruto Uzumaki, so who are you? The clone said with a shake of its head, X blinking behind his mask at the copy's words. The clone then circled around X, the thief quickly flipping to his feet to stare at the clone with a frown on his face. And just what the hell makes you say that? He questions, and the clone stretches his shoulders before then sighing out. You have betrayed those who were your friends in the hive. You're no longer using jutsu, so you can hide your skills from the titans, then use them when they least expect it. You have attempted to kill Robin 5 times today alone. You have discarded your training for the power of this suit. Need I go on? The clone listed then questioned, and X's eyes widened. Had he really done all of that? So I ask once more, who are you? The copy questions cryptically, and X shakes his head quickly. I am Naruto Uzumaki. Who else could I be? X demands, and the copy crosses its arms and laughs lightly. You're not Naruto at the moment, you are Red X, every thought, every move. The clone says darkly, and X twitches. What is this thing talking about? You only put on this suit to learn the controls for your new one. Why are you going after the xenothium? Because it is something Red X would do. The clone states darkly, and X's eyes widening. That's right, he remembers Gizmo saying the layout for the suit's weapons are the same in either one. He wanted to learn how to work it by using the older model, but then, why was he after the xenothium? Because it's a challenge to take on the kids. X says weakly, and the clone merely looks at him, his masked eyes turning a burning red, much to X's shock. Really? And is it something that Naruto or Red X would do? The clone questions, his voice distorting from Naruto's, becoming raspy and metallic sounding. X could only stand in silence. The clone was starting to make sense. He had been trying to master the X suit. He had gone out of his way to, no less, constantly watching the few clips that he had managed to get from the hive computers on Robin's fight with the Titans as Red X. Had he also slowly started to act like Red X instead of Naruto as well? Yes, now you see, don't you? Then allow me to remind you how to be Naruto Uzumaki once more. The red-eyed clone said darkly, while slowly forming into a combat stance. When X was sure he should know, but for the life of him, he couldn't remember where it was from. X did likewise, and also decided to call the copy Red for its burning eyes. What are you? X questions, and Red merely assuming a strange stance. When X feels he knows but can't remember for some reason. Neither enemy nor friend. I am like you, a shadow from the past. A shadow of that which Naruto Uzumaki once was, and as a shadow I have no name. As he says this, the clone lunges forward at X with a roundhouse punch which X blocked, leaving him open. The clone then quickly jabbed X in the face before reeling a hand back and slamming it into his gut, bending X downward, where he then used a roundhouse kick to knock him to the side. X grunts, hitting a wall, and looks up to Red with narrowed eyes before lunging at Red himself. However, Red quickly forms an X in one palm and knocks X to the side effortlessly. Turning on his heel, the copy then takes a new stance. X doesn't bother to read it, however, and blindly rushes forward, throwing punches and kicks towards the copy. However, the masked copy of the Master Thief blocks all these pathetic strikes, and soon X's arm is grasped, and he is judo tossed by Red once more. If I was facing Naruto Uzumaki, I'd be nothing but smoke by now. Red says darkly as his form shimmers to a more demonic version, but then returns to normal as he takes on a new stance. X then narrows his eyes on Red, a new stance for the Shadow Claw making itself known in his mind, and X suddenly finds his body moving on its own, moving into an intricate stance unlike the ones he had been using. That's good X, you're starting to remember who you are at last. Red praises and lunges forward, X finding himself to do the same as they punch towards one another at the same time, fist meeting fist, and a small shock wave comes from their fists. The two slide back from the force of the shockwave, and X quickly moves his right leg forward, while his left leg was backward and bent at the knee. He remembered this version of the Shadow Claw. He had made it after all. He had made it with his mother. Yes. Remember? Red said darkly, then reached up and ripped the cape from his body, throwing it off to the side, as he then formed a more intricate stance, the X blades unfurling from his gloves, making X eyes go white, as the clone lunged forward. X dodged the blade as it nearly cut his head off then, blocked Red's arm next, before judo tossing the copy over his shoulder and to a wall. The clone merely landed in a crouch against the wall before lunging off of it and at X, swinging his leg into a roundhouse kick. X dodged to the side however and fired an X towards the copy. Red jumped high into the air however, and then landed near X, swinging his X blades towards the thief. X dodged and then threw a quick kick towards Red's head, only for him to vanish, then reappear a few feet away, as he slowly stood up to his full height. X didn't give the copy time to do anything however, he was starting to remember himself. Not the dope, not Red X, and not the bitter and spiteful Naruto who had left Konoha. The Naruto who would rather beat the hell out of you rather than take someone else's shit. The Naruto Uzumaki who had promised his mother that he would make friends. Naruto suddenly opened his eyes behind his mask, and waved an arm toward Red, blades of wind forming on his hands, and launching towards the copy which flips up and over the attack before vanishing and reappearing a short ways away. More. Red suddenly exclaimed as he then began to slip into a new stance much faster than before, while his X blades folded back into the backs of his gloves. X knew this stance however, and formed a stance of his own to counter it as Red came forward with a backhand, blocked by Naruto who threw a punch at the copy, only for him to lean back. The fist missed as Red then kicked out and knocked X back. The thief flipped to his feet quickly however, and assumed another stance while trying to think of a jutsu to use, only to frown and take an offensive stance. Even if he used a jutsu, Red would be able to counter it. That's good X. Now we can fight as true warriors. Red then said as he reached down, and threw his belt to the side, then moved his arms before himself as an after-image followed them. Hand to hand is the basis of all combat. Only a full trusts his life to a weapon or jutsu. Red said darkly while forming another stance and lunging forward, punching X in the face. X grunted, but instead of falling he arched his body and moved into a backward roll, soon coming out of it to glare at Red heatedly. X roared loudly, eyes wide as he then quickly rushed towards Red with a fist drawn back. The copy crouched however, and then flipped over the thief landing behind him, and then kicking X in the backhand to the ground. Yes, you remember it now, the clashing of bone and sinew. Red told the thief cryptically as he then formed into a new stance and X did likewise, feeling the old thrill of battle as visions of the fights he had before his memories were sealed danced through his mind. Red lunged forward in a sideways flip, kicking out at X who blocked then knocked Red's other foot out from under him, knocking him to the ground, only for him to flip away before X could finish him off. Yes, that's good X. Remember that feeling, remember how to be yourself again. The copy cried as X did start to remember. He remembered working on the variation of the Shadow Claw tirelessly, when he learned the original version, much to his mother's dismay, even as she helped him. I do. Naruto suddenly whispered to himself and then formed his body into a new stance. The two lunged forward once more, X kicking out as Red blocked, then punched towards X who caught the fist and twisted, throwing the copy to the side only for it to place a hand on the floor and flip to his feet. Yes X, remember who you are. Red exclaimed while then lunging forward quickly, kicking out at X who rolled to the side. Red then lunged forward once more, punching out at the thief with deadly precision. X dodged the attack, then struck out himself, only for Red to dodge like he had. Red roared, lunging forward with a roundhouse, which X dodged by rolling to the side, then tried to sweep the copy off its feet. Red flipped over this however then came straight down from above, X rolling to the side to avoid as he stomped on the ground, making a crater where he hid. X suddenly had a flash of memories, remembering names, places, and things from the past he had forgotten. Even without the seal all his memories had been about bad things, while he had blocked the good, and some of his training had been blocked. I remember you now. X exclaimed while flipping back to his feet and glaring at Red. You my shadow opposite and equal to me in every way. Mom made you as she made you to help me train. X said softly and Red nodded his head slowly with a light chuckle, the clone slowly falling into a kneeling position. Yes, you remember at long last. The clone said while slowly standing up fully, before once more falling to one knee. I have done what was necessary for for our survival. Should you have continued down the path you were, we surely would have fallen into darkness like Sasuke. Red said as he slowly began to fade. X turned his back to the clone and walked towards the exit as this was happening, but listened to it nonetheless. Go now, brother, and remember, we are the wind. We follow our own course, going where we please and following no one's directions, but our own. Red finished while he and his discarded equipment vanished into a simple plume of smoke, while X turned to narrow his eyes on the spot. I will. With that, the thief ran out of the room, inwardly cursing he couldn't use his teleportation device to travel through walls. He have to ask some gearhead why later, probably Gizmo, at least if the little guy ever forgave him for the stunt at the hive. I guess I'll have to find them as soon as I can and apologize. I don't like bad blood between my friends and me. After all, they're all I've got in this lonely world. X whispered before smirking. Yes, he was finally himself again. Chang's hideout. X made it to the observatory-like building and ran up the side to find any kind of entrance, the best one being the front door, unfortunately. So the thief ran in and knocked out the few guards out there, before making his way up a flight of stairs, and found himself in time to see Robin hanging from a broken railing, while below the other titans are frozen, save for Starfire's head. Okay, good boy. Who should I destroy first? You, or your pretty friend? Chang questions darkly while moving his cannon towards the red-haired girl, and X narrows his eyes on the estranged man with a frown. Starfire. Robin exclaims with wide eyes, and X forms a shuriken into his hand and poises it, as the cannon now sits at point-blank range with the cutie. X lets the object fly, cutting the lever and button to fire the weapon away, much to Chang's surprise. X lets more of the objects fly at that moment, sending them all hurling towards the device, which sparks with electricity that knocks Chang back, covering his face. Hearing a gasp from Starfire, X looks back down at them and sees her staring at Robin, who seems like he's losing his grip on the railing. X curses under his breath as he then lunges onto the railings and launches himself across, catching Robin and then grabbing onto another railing, before throwing him onto the balcony around the room, and taking a second to catch his breath. That fight with Red must have took more out of him than he thought. I thought you didn't like to play the hero. Robin says, bringing X out of his thoughts, to look at the kid and smirk behind his mask. Doesn't mean I don't know how. X quips before then flipping up and onto the balcony himself to stand next to Robin. The two duck as red lasers come flying at them. The two look to one another before nodding to the other and running forward. Dan jumped into a pair flying kicks, a dove flying past them as they do. The two come down on an unlucky henchman's face, knocking him back as they lunge forward once more, Robin smirking as he kicked a man's feet out from under him, and X delivered a roundhouse kick to knock him away. The two then find themselves surrounded by the henchmen on both sides, and X can't help a light chuckle. How many can you handle, kid? He questions, and Robin thinks mock seriously before smirking. It might be trouble if one more shows up, he says, and X nods his head slowly. Then that'll be the one I take care of, he adds, and Robin grins widely. Wait, you're fighting? He quips in mock amazement, and X grins. You're learning. He thinks with a slight chuckle and lunges forward, raising a fist to knock back a henchman as Robin lunges at another with a flying roundhouse kick, knocking the henchman to the ground below. The two then flip back and X fires an X-beam into one's chest, while Robin tosses an explosive disc at another. The two then grip their unlikely ally's forearm and jump up to kick a man in the face on either side, then swing their bodies to the side, releasing the other's arm to punch a henchman in X's case or kick one in Robin's. The two then flip backwards to stand back to back, fists at the ready, and X notices a smirk on Robin's face from the corner of his eye. The two then both spin into a roundhouse kick to knock the last of the guards back to the ground and out cold. Heh, I can still lay them out better than the kid. X thought, as him having the longer leg meant his foot had been the one to primarily connect with the thug's head. The two look at and nod to one another, before rushing over to the railing, to see Chang pounding on his control panel. Is he really that stupid? X wonders to himself as an electrical spark from the control panel answers his question, and a cannon suddenly firing as Starfire lets out a yelp and ducks down, her hair being burned as the beam of the cannon then heads right in Robin and Red X's direction. Look out. Robin calls while pulling X with him, and the two run from the destructive beam of energy, X wondering what he did to deserve this in his mind. The two ran from the beam as it began to cut through the building like a hot knife through butter, X and Robin, both soon slowing down as the beam fizzles out. An entire section of the building then groans, before falling away, and X looks over to Chang, and nudges Robin, who narrows his eyes and heads for the villain. X meanwhile grins and heads for the newly opened port at the back of the device. Time to get what I came for, he says to himself, only to slide to a stop in a crouch, as the titans suddenly form a wall in front of him, Cyborg with his cannon at the ready. How did those guys thaw out so quickly? X wonders, then sees a tube of xenothium on the floor out of the corner of his eye and slowly picks it up. Time's up. Raven quips, and X merely stands up to face them, his cape covering him from view. Thanks for the help, X. Robin says, and X is amused to see a smirk on the usually serious Titan's face. But don't think that means you can help yourself, he says while pulling out an explosive disc, and X chuckles in his throat. No problem, kid, he says while holding a palm towards the Titans, and then reveals the full tube of xenothium he picked up. This should keep me going for a good long while. X says, and Robin's lips twitch. The boy wonder then grins as he puts his disc away and looks to X. That won't do you much good without this. Robin says, holding the thief's belt up, and X quickly looks down, only to find it missing, and chuckles in his throat at the irony of it. Touché, kid, touché. He thinks to himself while backing away from the Titans and looking over his shoulder to the water below. Better luck next time. He hears Robin say, and his own lips twitch. This was all planned, not in his head, but X knew the irony of it all. He had lost himself to this persona, and then found himself just in time for the kid to steal what he needed to be the old X. What irony. Looks like I'm going to be needing Giz's suit after all. This was fun and all, but I got to admit, a chakra-based power source is a lot less of a hassle. Besides, I think it might be fun to show these kids I have more tricks up my sleeve than a super suit. X then thought to himself, and fingers the tube in his hand. He could have had a clone go and get more. He could have had a clone henge into the belt, and stole the real one back, but he was the wind, and as such you wouldn't do something they would expect. He followed only his course after all. Not bad, kid. The Titans advance and X simply laughs in his throat. Not bad at all. He says and throws the Xenothium tube to the ground before then falling backwards out of the building. He quickly turns to face the water, however, and forms a few hand seals, vanishing into a plume of smoke, which is blown away by the wind, leaving the Titans to wonder where he disappeared. There is good, and there is evil, but the line between them can be almost impossible to find. The boy hovers over the cove where X fell. Starfire flies nearby, helping her friend look for the masked thief. The two soon land and look around, yet not even the smallest clue can be seen as to the whereabouts of the master thief. The boy changes back to normal and takes a thoughtful expression, wondering where X ran off to. Does one good deed make him a hero? Am I to blame for all of it, because of a single mistake? Robin walks into the room where the X suit had hung. Now he places the belt for the suit into a small safe, closing and locking the door with a random code, so no one could ever retrieve the object ever again. Meanwhile, in the sewer, a figure drops down into the water and runs down the darkened tunnel. It is revealed to be X when moonlight filters down to hit him, illuminating the thief as he makes his noosed escape. In the end, all I really know is that the answers don't come easy. Robin stands on top of Titan's tower, his masked eyes watching the horizon, looking off into the distance as the sun slowly rises once more. He sees a shadow hover over the city, however, not Slade or Brother Bloods. This shadow belongs to Red X. Robin narrows his eyes as the shadow vanishes with the morning sun. Turning, the hero walks back into Titan's tower, leaving Red X behind him once more. It's supposed to be simple, but it's not. The black limo rolls to a halt before the entrance to a cave on the outskirts of Jump City. We've arrived, madam, a rich cultured voice informs as a girl looks out of the window for a short time before opening her door and walking towards the cave. The girl has startling white hair, which reaches her shoulder blades, with grey eyes, pale alabaster skin, a slender body with a decent bust, long legs and an athletic build. She wears a green shirt with a cartoon cat's face on the front, a pair of tight blue jeans, and a pair of black boots. I'll only be a minute. The girl told the driver, who nodded stiffly, and the girl walked fully into the cave. Reaching into a pocket, the girl pulled out a small flashlight and turned it on to light her way. Walking deeper into the cave, the girl looked at a statue and snarled for a moment before glaring. You've paid, but your friends haven't, not yet at least. She whispers and walks past the statue. Sliding down an incline, she finds what she was looking for, half melted and sticking out of the rock. I know we didn't always get along, I know I probably didn't turn out how you wanted, but I'm going to change all that. I'll make them pay for your death, father. She whispers while placing a bouquet of roses onto the ground and smiles. Roses from Rose. She whispers and stands up straight, turning away from the half-melted object, a copper and black facial mask with one eye hole. Walking out of the cave, the girl turns her flashlight off and places it back into her pocket, closing her eyes deep in thought. Miss Wilson, we should return home. You're going to need your rest after all. The butler says as he stands out of the limo and holds the door open for her. He is a thin man, with balding black hair spilling down his shoulders. Wearing a white suit with black dress shirt and white tie. Holding a gloved hand towards the door, the man gives a polite bow, but the girl walks past him. She now stands on a cliff, looking towards Jump City with cold grey eyes, eyes unseen in any normal person, female or not, wintergreen. The girl says coldly, and the butler looks to her with a questioning expression, yet not voicing his inquiry. Have you monitored the ones who did this to my father? She questioned, and Wintergreen was silent for a few moments before nodding from behind her. I have, Miss Wilson. I have recorded every fight, every win or loss since your father's untimely demise. The man tells her curtly, and the girl smiles, a look of hatred on her face as she narrows her eyes on a T-shaped building in the bay. You may have defeated my father Titans, but now. The girl's eyes narrow further, the smile slips from her face into a scowl, dark intent lacing her grey orbs. You must face with the Ravager. She says darkly as the wind blows her hair, covering the left side of her face from view, her voice a monotone, cold and cruel, just like her father. Thanks for listening. I do hope you enjoyed. If you want a next part of this video, Like, subscribe, and comment down below, and turn on that bell notification. And also check out the other videos that I have created, and enjoy. See you in the next video. Peace.